Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of the Think Later and Live Now podcast. My name's Justin Gillespie. I'm assuming some of you know me at this point, but if you're just kind of new here, you're tuning into my podcast later on, or maybe you're just like, hey, I just discovered this on its opening release date. I've never seen you in my life, right? I'm just going to introduce myself real quick. I am a therapist for ADHD. I'm a multi-time self-published author, and my current book, The Think Later and Live Now, 3 Steps for Success for Overthinkers, is actually out today. Not today, because I'm recording this a few weeks in advance, but I am releasing this episode the day of the release. So anybody who's ordering the book, they get the experience of having the podcast, they get Think Later, Live Now book, and it's just a very exciting day for me. Even though I'm preparing this like 2 weeks out, I'm just getting the jitters just thinking about, oh my gosh, my new book is out, my new podcast is out, and in my opinion, I just want to sell myself for a minute, but like really put myself there because I'm very rarely proud of myself if I'm being so real, because I am probably my biggest critic. But man, I just think that this is probably the best book I've ever written. Out of the 3 books I've written, I've loved writing all 3 of my books, but this is just something that I can't believe that I made. So I'm just happy that you're here, and I just want to create a simple podcast for you so that way you can start achieving your goals today, right? And whenever you listen to this podcast, I want it to be things that you can just consume and swallow and just take away with you today. Now, as far as why I decided to create this podcast, there's a couple reasons. The main reason is audiobooks are very expensive, and I am in process of trying to figure out how to get an audiobook of this book made because I really want many people to hear this, right? But I also know that people don't always learn necessarily from like reading necessarily, or they have a hard time reading, or they don't enjoy reading, and they want something that's more conversational, whether it's being taught to them through a podcast or maybe they're hearing an interview, which we may do interviews in the future. But I just want this to be something where it's kind of like the auditory features of the book, and it's just things that you can just listen to and just start applying right away. So that is the main reason why I created the show. And the other reason I created the show is just because I really love helping people get out of their own head, stop overthinking, launch, take that first step, and achieve really good things, really big things, big or small or in between, right? So as far as the show goes and my book goes, if you are trying to clean your house, if you are trying to meal prep more, if you are trying to just go to the gym more, if you are trying to propose to someone and you're super scared to, or maybe you're trying to break up with someone because you know you need to move on, right? Or maybe you're trying to make a massive career change, or you maybe want to start a business, or maybe you've been doing a business for a long time and you're like, you know what, I'm ready to sell or close this business, right? And you're just kind of in your head and things are ruminating and things are catastrophizing. If this is you and you know, like, I want to take the next step, I might not even know what the next step is, but I know I want to do something, right? This podcast is for you. And this is why I created it, because I love helping people get out of their own head and launch. I've kind of realized recently that my therapy specialty over the last 10 years, even though I do a lot of work with ADHD, that's like my main niche with therapy work now. If I had to summarize my therapy niche in the last 10 years, just with my work that I've done, and I had to summarize it in like 4 words, it would probably be something like stop overthinking, launch now. That's probably going to be maybe some other combination of that, because I just did that on the fly. But if I had to describe it in 4 words, it's stop overthinking, launch now. I'm really good with working with people getting out of their own heads, whether it's substance abuse recovery, ADHD, executive functioning, anxiety, past traumas, right, that are making them get in their own head and not get out of their own way. I've learned that I do really well with these types of people. And so I'm just really happy you're here, and I hope that you find this podcast very useful. And while we're here, maybe share this podcast episode with a friend. Maybe you know somebody who is overthinking something right now. You know there's a big goal they want to achieve, but they're kind of in their own head or something like that. I know we know at least one person like this, if not many, right? Whoever that friend is, send them this episode and tell them to take a listen to it, because I really really think that it would help them out a lot. And hey, that'd be a really good and fun way to also grow this podcast, because we need community to grow the podcast. Okay, so as far as this show goes, I'm going to tell you kind of the format, how I want to go through this, and then we're going to go through what I call the PAM method, which is my 3-step method on how to get out of your own head and take action. And so how this podcast is going to work is, my goal is to keep it under 30 minutes per episode. Some episodes might be 6 minutes, some might be 29 minutes and 59 seconds, because as you can see, I'm a little long-winded. But I want to keep this show under 30 minutes because I want it to be for something that you can do for like your commute, or maybe you're taking the kids to school, or maybe you are, just on a walk, or maybe you're on a treadmill. And so you're on a treadmill at the gym, I guess I should say. And so I want this to be something that you can take away in a short amount of time. You can consume it, you can swallow it. It doesn't take a lot of depth to take action, right? Because I think a lot of times these podcasts go into depth and you're just like spinning your wheels, right? So I want to keep this show under 30 minutes. I think that it'll make it more digestible. It's going to be quick enough that you can finish an episode without feeling super, behind. And then it also allows me to release bonus content throughout the week if I wish, right? Because I'm somebody who likes to make episodes off the cuff. Maybe I've just learned something, maybe I'm thinking something, right? And I just like to share it out with people. That's how I've done it on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, right? Hopefully I'm going to do it on YouTube, because I'm going to use my own method and my own books to do something with YouTube in 2026. So make sure you guys stay tuned with that, because I would love to do something for YouTube. And that is the one thing where even myself, I've gotten in my own head. And so I'm going to follow my own rules and, start doing stuff for YouTube in 2026. But anyway, that's a whole other little side conversation for a minute. But I want it to just be something that you can just take with you and just start doing stuff today. Okay. So let's get into what the PAM method actually is. Now, I've created this method after about 2 or so years of work, just working with individuals in a somewhat structured way. So if you know anything about therapy, you'll know that a lot of therapists and even a lot of coaches, right, they're not working with a lot of frameworks. We're doing a lot of person-centered planning. And even in the work that I do with this now, right, I'm still doing person-centered planning. But I found that having a structure to this helped many more clients than just making everything super duper customizable, right? Because what we like to do in the therapy world is we like to make every single treatment plan unique. And what I found was keeping track of everyone's individual goals, individual intervention, things like that. That got to be, much more stressful maybe than it needed to be. And instead, what I would do for most people is I would tell them about this method if it would be, appropriate and apply to them. And I would tell them, hey, like, here's how I think that we could go about this, and we could start doing this for many things in your life. And then wherever the barriers are, we could tweak it or something. Like, what do you think? And I found that a lot of people really ended up enjoying this. And so these steps actually came in separate parts before I started moving them together. Now, these steps are not super unique, which we're going to get in the steps in a little bit here, but just stay with me for a second. The 3 steps I'm going to teach you today, they are not super unique. They are not something that I just made up out of thin air and like create this whole crazy method and, whatnot, right? These are skills that you would have in things like cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy. You would have them in trauma-focused CBT, solution-focused brief therapy, somatic styles of therapy, doing things in brain and body work, right? These are all things that have come from the psychology world already, right? So these aren't just something I just made up and saying life is just this easy, do it, right? I tell my clients all the time, even if you do this method, it's not necessarily going to be super duper life changing, but it is going to enhance your life quite a bit, especially in the beginning, and then as you do it for a long term in the end. I know it's in the middle. The middle is kind of like the challenging work, right? Because you have to maintain doing the method. And it's annoying because it's a method that you could do multiple times a day, right? It's not just you do this one time and then that's that, right? You're going to find creative ways to do this in a lot of parts of your life, okay? But I want to get into the steps of the method. And so the 3 steps of the method are pause, which can also be considered a freeze. Then we have affirm. And then I also add to affirm for the A, I also add aloud or out loud. Okay? Like we're speaking aloud or out loud. Speak aloud, everybody. Don't just keep it in your head, right? And then we have move. Okay? And that's what makes the PAM method. Pause, affirm, aloud, and move. Okay? And then also, even though this kind of goes with affirm, even though the words sound alike, allowed, right? You're allowed to do something, speak aloud, right? Allowed and affirm kind of go together too. So even though I don't really talk about that, unofficially, allowed kind of goes into affirm because you're allowing yourself to do something. And that goes into the mindset work that we'll go into other episodes. And maybe we'll touch briefly on it today as well, depending on kind of how I speak today, because I'm kind of free talking with my notes today. Okay, so let's start with the pause or the freeze. So the first things first you need to recognize is this is the reset button. This is the cap that you are putting on yourself when the overthinking is rising and the anxiety is high. And so that anxiety is going up to a 4 out of 10, a 5 out of 10, a 6 out of 10, a 7 out of 10. When you just pause and you stop speaking and you stop moving, that's going to put a lid on that anxiety. And as you practice this method more, it's going to start pushing down the anxiety. Okay? Now, why this works is essentially this is you stopping all movement and all speaking from yourself to your brain. So the neurotransmitters that are in your body, right, they're not sending any more messages, right? You stopped moving, you stopped speaking for 3 seconds, and there's no more information going to the brain, which means there's no more need for the anxiety to go up. So it essentially puts a cap on it, or it significantly slows it down enough to where we can gather some thoughts now. And you can also use this for just trying to gather your words, try to gather your ideas, trying to just figure out, like, where am I even at? This is what the pause method is for. And I call this pause. You can call it freeze if you want. It really is technically more of a freeze because you're not moving even your lips. You're not moving your lips. You're not moving your hands. You are literally just standing still for 3 whole seconds, right? And you are just letting your body reset. So it's almost like going into the freeze response, but with intention. So we're stopping movement with intention, okay? So that's kind of what the pause of the freeze is. Now, the next one, affirm aloud, right? This is the part where we start speaking out loud. And you're going to speak out loud in one of a few ways. You're either going to speak out loud something positive about your situation or an affirmation about yourself that you truly believe with your heart. And if you speak it out loud and you realize, I don't really believe this, it feels ick, then you're going to find something else positive that you do believe and speak it out loud till you do. Or you're going to go to the next step, which is the neutral affirmations or the objective feedback. I kind of use these interchangeably, but the neutral affirmations or the objective feedback. This is just basically feedback with no shame. So you're basically not attacking your character. You are just giving yourself a little sense of feedback for yourself, right? So let's say you procrastinated doing something. You have a house party that you're throwing and there's dishes in the sink and people are coming in 20 minutes, right? Instead of saying, oh my God, you're a lazy POS, I can't stand myself, I'm so disgusting, right? Words like that we often might say to ourselves. Instead, you're just going to tell yourself, man, I really need to get these dishes done, or I probably should have done this sooner, and I want to do this sooner. That's a big thing too. Maybe you identify what you want in that moment too, right? The desired outcome that you would want for the future. But notice how saying stuff like that, it changes the language from character-based speaking to just, being neutrally critical about yourself. You're not attacking yourself. You're not attacking your identity. You're just stating what the facts of the situation are. This is kind of the part that comes from DBT too, because I was talking to my friend Phaedra, which, by the way, check out my friend Phaedra Baker in Birmingham, Michigan. She has a private practice out there for DBT. I believe it's called Thrive DBT. If I'm remembering her practice name at the top of my head, she's really awesome. But we were talking about this the other day, and she said that this part actually sounds like something in DBT that they call checking the facts, right? And so this is why I say this is not just something we've just made up out of thin air, and we're just like, do this and change your life, right? These come from really legitimate therapy building skills and interventions and modalities that have helped many people already. Okay. So you're checking the facts of the situation and you're just speaking to yourself neutrally and just giving yourself that neutral feedback. Now, the other thing that you can do with the affirm aloud part is you can give yourself a simple command. So this is maybe when you're scatterbrained and you don't know what to do and you have to clean the whole house and you have to have the house kind of in order and you have to go make your bed and you have to vacuum and then you have to take the trash out and the dishes are still in the sink because you didn't learn from last time, so they're in the sink again, right? And so you're just like, what do I even do? I have so many things, I can't do this, right? And so you would just pause, you'd stop all the movement, 1, 2, 3, and then the simple command out loud might just be, go get the mop, go get the broom, go start those dishes, right? Put the dishes in the dishwasher, right? Just something simple that you can just say really quickly. I would say anything that's like about no more than like 7 or 8 syllables. If you have more than that, it's fine. But just the quicker you can give yourself a command, the better, right? Pick up the shoes. Because I always have like shoes like right by my door, like when we first walk in. They're always just kind of like piled up near each other or something like that, right? Straighten out the blankets because I'm actually thinking of blankets on my couch right now. Actually, when I get home today, I'll probably have to go like straighten those out a little bit or something. But just simple little things that you can say in those moments, right? If you're starting a business, maybe you have a lot of stuff to do for your business and you're just stressed out and you don't know what to do. You don't know how to get started. You've been trying this whole business thing for like 3 months now. You haven't got a single client. You haven't got a simple sale. And there's other things you need to do too. You still need to do your business plan. You need to do your website. You need to do marketing, right? So maybe this is where we just pause for a second. 1, 2, 3, and then speak out loud whatever comes to mind, what you need to do, and don't wait too long. Like once you have that 1, 2, 3, just speak out the action step. So this might be like design the website tonight. Or this might be something like make that TikTok video or something of that nature, right? Just some sort of one action step to give yourself so that you have a task to now do. And now, why the Affirm works so well is because we like the sound of our own voice. Our brain likes the sound of our own voice. We may not like the sound of our own voice, I should say. Our brain likes the sound of our own voice. Very attention grabbing. And so whenever we speak and we have a bunch of clouded memories kind of happening, they're swimming, they're going around, they're doing the most, right? When we have that going on and we speak something out loud, whether it's positive, neutral, negative, or an objective, just feedback, right? Any of those 4, right? We try to eliminate the negative one because negative is usually shame based, and we're like, we don't need shame based for what we're trying to do, right? But when you do any of those 4, the sound of your own voice and the words you're speaking, when your brain hears it, it processes the sound of your own voice as new information and more information that's more priority. It has a bigger priority sense for you. And so your brain is going to attach to that a lot quicker, especially if you believe the statement you're saying or it's simple. So you're just going to spew it out real quick. You're going to be like, go get the mop, go vacuum, go make the bed, right? And you're going to speak it out loud, and then the brain is going to be like, ooh, I'm attached to this now, right? It's right at the front of my brain. As soon as I said that out loud, even though I'm not doing these tasks right now, like I felt my brain immediately, like right at the top of my head here, right? I got to see in biology, so I'm not going to tell you what parts of the brain I'm pointing at, but just like right at the top of my head, like kind of in the center, but to the left, I felt a tingle here, and I felt a little tingle on my the right side of my head too, right? And I notice whenever I give commands to myself in that way, I notice those 2 spots always start to like tingle for just a brief second, just click, right? So I don't know if you guys experience that in any other ways too, right? But in my book, it does explain the basic neuroscience of how this sort of works, and probably if I went more advanced into it, I'd probably know why I'm feeling those tingles in certain places, or what have you, right? So when you do this exercise, right, the speaking out loud especially, I want you to pay attention, like what does your head do? Like what do you feel in your head? What do you feel in your body too? But what do you feel in your head? Do you feel like anything kind of tingling, any parts of your body light up? I want you to pay attention to that. But the sound of your own voice is going to be a much bigger priority to you than just thinking the next task in your head, because you're just putting a bunch of tasks that are now swimming in your head together. Okay, and then the last step is going to be the move step. And so this is going to be your antidote for the overthinking. Okay, we've got the cap going on, we've got the redirection. The move is basically an intentional movement. It's just as simple as taking one tiny step, one physical action, and just turning your body right after you say, like, go get the mop, go vacuum the living room, go make the bed, go start the website, right? Go call that client back, right? Whatever the case may be, you're just going to do a micro movement. And so let's say it was me, right? Let's say I got my first therapy client. I started my private practice, a couple of years ago, and I got my first therapy client, and now I haven't had time to call my client back or, my inquiry back or whatever. That first movement might just be when I say call the client back and I just turn around to wherever my phone is. Maybe my phone's not in my pocket or something, right? And I just turn around to face where the direction of which my phone is. Or if I'm sitting, maybe I just stand up. If I'm standing up, maybe I just take one step forward. And so what happens is when you do this intentional movement now is you went from resetting the nervous system to now taking the sound waves of your own voice, having your brain hear them, and then process that as new information and more prioritized information. And then the move is reactivating those neurotransmitters that are sending messages to the brain. And it's just basically getting you away to where your motor skills are taking control of the situation. And so what this will do is the action, then that physical action is going to clear the mental fog faster than simply relying on motivation ever will. Because what we've done is we've simulated our own motivation. We didn't wait for motivation to catch in, right? Motivation's to catch up. Motivation's a mood. Motivation is something that we can't control 100% of the time by situation, but we can simulate that feeling in the very short term by just taking this method and stopping all movement, stopping what we're doing, speaking to ourselves out loud like we're our good friend, or just giving ourselves a simple redirection, and then moving. A micro movement, right? I don't even care if you actually grab the thing. Maybe you end up doing something else. That's fine, right? That might relate to, focus regulation challenges and executive functioning, but at least we're doing something as opposed to staying in our own head and staying, uncomfortable about it. And that is the foundation of our show. So the pause, affirm, move, the PAM method. I call this method the PAM method because I personally never met a PAM that I've never liked. So if you're a PAM, definitely make sure you follow this podcast on Instagram, Think Later, Live Now. I hope all of you just follow that, by the way, because that would be awesome. And we are going to have these episodes on a weekly basis starting today. So this show is going to drop, since my book release is releasing on Black Friday. We're just going to have it on Fridays be released typically. That ever changes, make sure you pay attention to that ever. But, we're going to have these episodes released once a week, and then I'll have little bonus stuff here and there whenever I feel like uploading it as well. So that way you have little tidbits of insights and motivation to go throughout your day. All right, and until the next one, I can't wait to see you. Make sure you grab my book. It's going to be linked in the show notes, Think Later and Live Now. I'm super proud of this book, and I cannot wait to hear from you all again. I guess you'll hear from me because you're hearing my voice, but that's okay. All right, I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.